Yeah, I know those are fun. All right. Hello, everybody. Tom Kaczynski here. Merry Christmas. Welcome to Tom Unscripted, the Christmas edition. I promised I would do a show, and here I am. So I apologize. I'm running a few minutes late. There was nothing that could be done for that. I couldn't really help that. Let's see if we can just adjust this a little bit because we don't really have this quite right here, but that's okay. You know, it's a holiday. You know, I showed up. That's half the battle. And I don't really have much of a format for this show, to be honest with you. Just a chance for us to meet and gather. And I figured some of you would appreciate getting time away from your family, from your kids, from other people. Did you have any interesting conversations with relatives and in-laws where you ended up, fighting with one another? Let's hope not, but I know that happens sometimes at the holidays. And I hope everyone had a good and blessed day. So I've been trying to figure out what's happening with this Nashville thing, right? So let's just jump into it. And let's keep in mind that this is just basically me, stream of consciousness, watching this. You guys may have more up-to-date news, but I'm linked into a lot of interesting intel networks. So here's what we know so far. We know that an explosion happened with some sort of an RV early this morning in Nashville. I've heard a lot of rumors about a gunfight going on earlier than that. There was, and you can see the video of this if you look for it. There was video of the fact that some automated voice thing was telling people to get out of the area. I've heard one source say it was the police. I've heard another source say it was an RV itself that was doing it. We know that this happened in front of the AT&T building. Whether or not that's relevant is an interesting question, especially as they tried to scare people away. And that was somewhere used supposedly by people involved with the NSA, which I think might be a key part of this story. Are we seeing some sort of deep state battle, some sort of foreign infiltration? I don't know what's going on with that. But I do know that we did see the explosion. We know that there has been issues where Nashville's airport was shut down. We know that the 911 system throughout the southeast was having problems. I think into Atlanta, Chattanooga, Nashville, that whole area was having issues, and that we know also that supposedly beyond this, there's actually a big chunk of Cincinnati's shut down right now because there's a suspicious RV there. So we don't know what the cause was of this. There haven't been any preliminary suspects put out there. But I will offer some informed speculation. And Merry Christmas, everybody, by the way. And this is just me thinking aloud, who is it, who done it? I don't think it's a standard political actor in terms of any of the radicals. If it was the radical right, this just isn't the sort of target that makes sense for them. If it was the far left by the same basis, that doesn't really make sense for me either. I think that one of two things is likely. Either this is some sort of a three things. This is some sort of a deep state battle. If that is an NSA facility, maybe the CIA was involved with that, some sort of battle between them. It could be some foreign power or some other militia probing to see vulnerabilities in the American response system. Certainly looks like it could be an opportunity for an attack like that. Good morning or good evening, Simple Farmer. I hope you had a Merry Christmas as well. And the other third option is that these people got intercepted on their way to somewhere else and something weird went apart. So we don't really know that much about it other than, it's sort of interesting. If you guys are good to approach it from kind of a, what you want to believe perspective here. Let's look at, go have fun. Lynn Wood's Twitter is always fun for the more conspiratorial take on this. So let's see what he's saying, because he's been talking like crazy about different various things here. And we'll just see what he has said in the last little bit. All right, because he was talking about this, calling out Joe Biden as being part of the Communist Party, calling out Pence, but that's not what I was looking for. He was talking about this earlier and about Schiff arrest in Los Angeles. All right, so this was posted on Twitter earlier today, so let's talk about that for a second. Apparently Adam Schiff was taken into custody at LAX. We don't know what that's about, but that was reported from an eyewitness report that was put on there. We'll see if it actually ends up happening, but I don't know. So here we go. Linwood an hour ago. Merry Christmas. This is from his Twitter feed. What a day. Adam Schiff not having a good Christmas. Bomb in Nashville hit AT&T Center, causing internet and power outages in Southeast. Police all night at White House. Cyber attack on an Air Force base. I don't even know what was going on with that. See if we can figure that out. Not reported by mainstream media. It all makes sense. So I don't know what all's going on with this. So I do think that I'm actually really, really curious here what has gone forward here. And a lot of people are talking to, let's see. President Trump has given new Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen permission to use classified information for indictments. The guy's a CFR member. Actually, Rick Wiles did the research. Just give credit where credit's due. But yeah, I don't really expect much to come out of that. But people always expect that the answers are going to come from somewhere besides the people. The answers are going to come from the people, and we all know that, and we all know what that means. And it's one of the reasons why we want to go ahead and enjoy Christmas as much as we can. Because let's be honest, we may not have a chance to have too many days after this, which are just simple normalcy. And that's kind of one of the struggles, right? I mean, that's one thing I was thinking about. That's why I've been becoming an expert on every state and province that borders me, so we can actually. My tea. Where did my tea go? There it is. All right, just give me 1 second to take a drink of my tea here. Dana did an excellent job. The wife wishes you all a Merry Christmas as well. So I don't really have a topic or theme for this show. I just kind of peeked at the news. So if you guys want to throw up some questions a little earlier than usual, that'd be good. What did I do today? Let's talk about my day. We just finished watching the animated version of Pilgrim's Progress. An absolutely wonderful, enjoyable movie, and really the point to put the focus on what we really do need to be worried about, which is the salvation of our souls. Obviously, that's a big and important piece of the puzzle, and it's the most important piece, really. And I watched it just because it's so hard sometimes to remember there's more to life than just the day-to-day news grind and the cycle of all the problems and the violence and the questions around us. And remembering that there's a bigger purpose to this all is something that's real easy to lose in a time like this when things are so odd and so funny. And it was just something that I had to take a step back. And we did that today. And why not? It's Christmas, right? Because I realized I'm going to probably, in the coming days, I usually write books. You all know I like to write books. But I've been thinking my next piece of prose is probably going to be more Jeffersonian or Thomas Paine-like in scope, which is that for whatever reason, I have a gift for explaining why people do certain things. And considering certain of the things that people are probably going to do not so long from now, I think it's the time to list some of the grievances of what's out there. And maybe you want to put some out of your own. But I tell you what, look at this stimulus package. It's a perfect microcosm of it. The Republicans who are willing to spend billions, many hundreds of billions on foreign aid and didn't blink an eye about what it would do to the deficit, do a fit when the people would get their own money. And the Democrats who say they want to support the people attach it to everything related to anything but aid for the people. And it's the contempt. It's just the contempt that disgusts me. And people always go, well, why don't you run in the system? Why don't you try to change it? It's a fixed system. It's a rigged system. And, it's rigged top to bottom. It's ugly. And I'm just not, I do what I can by not participating in it. I work, people say, well, you don't have anything to say about it. I have a ton to say about it. That's why I'm out here doing alternate things. So Merry Christmas to you, Theo, to Julie, Fern, Mabel. Those are some awesome names. I love it. So Merry Christmas to all of you guys out there in San Diego. I hope you guys are having a good time there. I'm trying to remember, when was the last time? The Gaslight Quarter. Isn't that what it's called? Gaslamp Quarter or something? And Coronado Island. It's been years, but I've actually been out there to San Diego. Had a wonderful trip, Makes me think of that one movie. What was it they filmed out there? The one, My Blue Heaven. That was it. Years and years and years ago, because Lord knows I don't watch anything new. Of course, I don't even watch anything old these days. I literally get up and every day I read pretty much a 200-page book about a different state in New England. So theoretically, Massachusetts is set up for tomorrow, although I have a New Brunswick group. Hopefully, I won't have any more Canadian people come in here and tell me how I don't understand Canada. But it's pretty interesting. It's always a woman from Ontario. And it's not always the same woman, but it's always that telling me how I don't understand Canada, which is pretty interesting because I actually get out to the Maritimes and what they say privately isn't the same thing as they say publicly, but that's okay. I understand, and I don't want to get anyone in trouble with the mental health department they have up there because they've criminalized dissent. And that's something we have to deal with. At this point, don't be surprised if they're not going to criminalize having an RV at this point. I was talking about that in the chat we were in. Lamprey says, I'm snowed in 2 days. This is my Christmas. Do you know it rained up here in Maine? It was 50 degrees. It was raining, and we now had an unwhite Christmas. It was really funny. All the rain wiped out all the snow up here. So, you might as well be living in one of the Carolinas. It's just ironic how that works in life sometimes. I'm sure we will get freezing cold weather and snow back very shortly. We always do. But it's been one of the things that's been kind of funny about how this winter's worked out. Kind of a strange season and whatnot. So let's see. Merry Christmas, Tom. Patriot just got in for a big load of Chinese food. We'll be celebrating Christmas. Pretty depressed. I'm sorry to hear that, Bob. I hope your day will improve. You have the opportunity to listen into the show, and at least you get some good Chinese food. What did we have tonight? I made a ham with pineapple, which was tasty, and green beans. And I'll give you a pro tip. If something you could do, something I do actually, I get bacon and I make bacon and I conserve the bacon fat. And I use that to cook all my beans and meats. And it comes out so tasty. And it's just absolutely delectable. But we had a really nice night, Dana and I did. We had a great opportunity to watch a couple things and to relax. And that's what we're trying to do. I mean, the thing is, it's really hard to dial it back, right? And I understand the struggle for each and every one of us. It's certainly for me. I sit up and every day I think, okay, is today going to be the day civilization collapses? And, am I going to reenact my role as the guy, what's the guy from Foundation? Sheldon, that's the name, psychohistory, because literally I'm a psycho studying history. No, I'm just kidding. But the idea that you try to predict where civilization's falling apart, and that's one thing we're going to do more of in the next year. In fact, let's talk about that since we're here. We'll do some New Year's type resolutions a little bit ahead of time. I've promised I'm going to try to lose 20 pounds, and that means me giving up sugary drinks. And that's hard for me because that is my stress relief. I mean, people say, oh, why don't you do this? I'm like, because I sit there, I look into the abyss. I'm literally like looking into the Palantir every day, telling you what horrible thing is going to emerge. And if it hasn't, shown in my my beard getting, grayer and me looking older, I mean, these wrinkles, I'm earning them. That's important. And other people just go around thinking, oh, we have a perfect system, laws of history, marks, yay. I mean, people are retarded. And I'm sorry. I know you're not supposed to use that phrase, but I don't care. I grew up calling people retarded, and I'm going to call people retarded till the day I die because I just don't really care to change. I'm too damn old, and I've reached the point where now people will just have to make excuses for me. I am not changing to try to fit in. It's just not in me. So we're bumming around. I got the Dr. Pepper shirt on because it's warm in here. Dana was hot, so, we had to... Well, we've been tweaking the temperature, but that's neither here nor there. That happens. But, yeah, so where was I? So what I was going to say is some of the things you can't cancel the canceled, right? I mean, all YouTube can do is shut me down and ask me, try to use a more obscure platform, which I will if I have to. Who knows? But I mean, in the next year, one of the things I'm going to try to do is more historical analysis. You guys seem to really respond to that. A lot of people liked when I did the show about crossing the Rubicon and put a little bit of depth in behind these things. And it gives me an excuse to look at some other points. But I think in the next year, what I'm going to do, I mean, I have the thing written for the next book I want to write, but what is going to hold me back just a bit is I think some of the things has to be written about what we're dealing with today. And I guess the question we have to talk about is, are we willing to talk about separation as opposed to having a hot war? Because that's what it's really coming to. And what does that look like? Because people think, oh, there are two sides. America does not have two sides. America has 2 million sides. And understanding how to connect these in a logical way is the only way toward peace. Because, for instance, let's say you were to say that the Northeast is a blue area. Well, then you're going to have Maine and New Hampshire going to war with Massachusetts about 5 minutes later. And, if you were to look at a county by county map, it doesn't work. Or let's say you were going to draw those lines and say, okay, well, we're going to snake the red line along the Appalachians. Well, then you're going to be fighting a war where cities are under siege and the country's getting bombed. And all of these things happen if you don't understand where that maybe, a Vermont Democrat and a Maine Republican have more in common than a Maine Republican and an Alabama Republican, or a Vermont Democrat and a California Democrat, although maybe they don't. And that's one of the things that I think we need to talk about more often. And I know these sort of things don't interest people enough, right? People want to know, what are the politicians going to do? The politicians are going to lie to you. They're going to cheat. They're going to rob you, and they're going to steal. That's what they do. They're good at it. They get paid to do that. They're the prom kings who think they're lucky because every girl wants to sleep with them, and then they're surprised when you end up with syphilis as the result. That's basically the way our political system works, with a bunch of whores who are basically disease-ridden. And herpes, right? That's it. You hear Dana chuck in there, so it's absolutely that. So let's see what you're writing. Patches writes, churches today are filled with secular humanists. Are there any more traditional, brave Christian churches left? It doesn't seem like there's too many. There's some Baptists out there who are holding out pretty good. I think they do an okay job. There's some fundamentalist churches. Yeah. I mean, the problem is no one wants to say things that are unpopular. For instance, no one wants to go out there and say homosexuality is a sin. It is. I'll say it. It's fine. They hate me and feelings, I don't hate them, but I mean, the truth is, and then the sin of it is the carnality, right? It's the fact that you are lusting after the flesh. I mean, but we live in a society where the thing is people don't accept the idea of sin, including most Christians. I mean, the New Apostolic Reformation has ruined the church into thinking you are living your best life. Joel Osteen needs to go back into whatever hole he crawled out of and go ahead and lift the Bible up once in his time. And, I know what I'm supposed to say as a Christian. I just pray that they'll be saved and that they'll find their way back to the Lord. And I do pray that. I just know it isn't going to happen because I'm a little bit of a realist and maybe I'm a little bit of a hard ass, and that's okay. But there's not too many left. I mean, and then look, this was going to be predicted by these days. People want so badly to get along and go along, and they want to be liked and they want to be popular, and they don't want to say what's right. But the thing is, doing what goes along to get along is the exact thing that exacerbates all the other problems that come later. For instance, if people had said transgenderism was a mental disease, which they should have many years ago, we wouldn't have these crazy things where now mental health groups are calling masculinity toxic. But everyone always wants to go along to get along. People don't want to make waves, and history's made by people who made waves. And now that we've done the thing where you put things off and put things off, we've basically let the mess become a maggot-strewn problem where we're going to have to clean a lot of things up. And when that happens, here's what will happen. And look, it has nothing to do with my ideas of what political society life should be like. It's more about the fact when societies break down, there's predictable things that will happen. Violence begins to take over. People take naturally intelligent things, and all the BS gets pushed aside until someone decides to take over. And even if the wrong side wins, the lessons that they will learn from the conflict that emerge will serve as a reset away from the insanity that has been the sort of, as you say, transhumanist cultural Marxist agenda, unless there's just a few people who have us fight robot dogs into infinity and we get Zerg rushed by Boston Dynamics. Let's pray it doesn't go to that out. Happen that way. And it's something I worry about. I worry about with the vax. I mean, I worry about what would happen with all the different lockdowns, social credit score, whatever. And I'm sure whatever list there is, because I've looked at every group that's been named for being bad, who's like, there was an article saying alt-right is working with anti-vaxxers. I'm like, well, I'm on both of those lists. I'm like, it's pretty hard to find a list I'm not on. The only ones I'm not on are the really violent ones. And I'm not violent. And the reason I'm not violent is because the pen is mightier than the sword. And not that people don't have to fight for things. I don't think that's the problem. But I think that it would be counter-effective for me to go out there. Instead, I put education up there and people learn and people listen, and hopefully some people get some things from it. I mean, we have a small faithful crowd to this broadcast, and I'm grateful that you guys are here. I do it as a labor of love for you, and I do it because I do it because I think you get a lot of value out of it. And, you get to wander through my mind for a little bit. And some people find some value to it. So if you like it, hit the like button, do that. That's the least you can do. It really is the least you can do. So get that up a little bit. And other than that, let's just throw some questions out there. Make my life easy tonight. So, because it's Christmas, I want to celebrate. I'm actually in a pretty good mood. Let's see. People are dying for churches to call it the truce. Once they do, people will come in droves. Well, you know what? I tell you what, Patches. I tell you what I think. I think that 2021 is going to see the return of the truth in a big way. I think that people are tired of backing down. I think that you're going to see active resistance to the lockdown agenda beyond any sort of political conflict. I think you're going to see more people say, we're not going to stand up for this. And I'll make one of the predictions that I've been saying more and more. The right wing is getting real tired of law enforcement enforcing tyrannical rules. If law enforcement and the right wing turn against each other, it won't be long before they have anyone to back them. So for the people out there who are just following orders, I think they need to think real carefully about that. But since you talked about the church, I mean, we'll talk about for a second. I think the job of a good preacher is pretty straightforward. Preach the Bible. Preach the lessons Jesus taught, and don't be ashamed of it. Don't be ashamed to say what the Bible says. And the Bible is harsh at times. The Bible demands a lot of you, but the Bible promises a lot too. The Lord promises for those who can walk the narrow path, that there is eternal salvation, and that's worth it. I think that's, the things that, people really do need to be aware of, that they need to be understanding. And look, people get mad at the person. Why are you preaching that when that's hateful? Look, God hates things. Why should that surprise you? You think God is so different in the sense that, things that don't emerge? I mean, God hates injustice, and God hates, when we get led astray. And what do we get led astray into? We get led astray by desire. We get led, it's like Pilgrim's Progress says that. We get led astray by passion, and we find ourselves in patience. And so we've been very patient. And now, we'll have to go a little bit further than that. But those are the challenges that we face today. But yeah, and it's not even just about the social issues either. It's just like people say, oh, well, they always make about the gay issue and all that. But there's a lot of things. I mean, really, it's a reorientation of life. It's like where you don't say money is everything. You can't buy your way into heaven. You just can't. If you did, there's other religions that went down that pathway and tried to do that. But Christianity, at least under Christ, didn't. So I think that, if you guys have questions about the faith, we can talk about. I mean, in a different time, I'd love to be a preacher, but I'm too caught up in fights I can't get out of. And I feel bad about that, by the way. I want to share that. I would love to just be able to say, hey, my mind's in this place. But you got to survive and able to talk these things. And it's been a weird thing in my I call it a ministry sometimes, because a lot of people who you'd never think would consider Christianity listen to, or at least are considering the ideas because of some of the things I've said. And I think that that's a blessing. In fact, it is a blessing, but it's just been a very strange walk, and I have to continue walking it as best I can. So, came in, what's your thought? I'll come back to you, Josh. It's a good question. Let's see. Lamprey, 2 of my friends bought your book after we chatted. Merry Christmas to you and your better half. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I look forward to our next chat. I had a lot of fun coming on the show. And put a link up for it. I want people to be able to listen to it. He does Lamprey does an excellent podcast. We went on sort of a long, rambling chat, but he has some really interesting guests. Very good time. Good friend. Smart man, and his friend as well too, who was there. Very smart pair of dudes. All right, let's see. I just came in. What are my thoughts on this crazy Nashville bombing? Well, what I said, and since you just came in, you missed it. I led with that, but my first thought is that it's either deep state hijinks or it's some form of foreign testing of the ability of different elements of our communication system. We will see what comes out in time. I don't think we really know yet. It's a little too soon. And coming on here, I actually had to stop looking at all the things that I was looking at, because I was a couple minutes late because, one, I had to take out the trash, and I'm just not going to have trash that stinks. Sorry, it's just not happening. But secondly, because I was trying to get up to date, because I knew you guys would ask me that question about that. So I don't know yet. I think that we are going to see strange and unpredictable things happening, and I don't think anyone will be surprised to hear that I think violence is going to be a much larger feature in our future, no matter what happens here. I saw RV still intact as flash came in from the side street. Fake flappery in progress? Maybe. Yeah, I don't know what happened, Raven. I haven't seen all the camera angles, and I haven't seen it blown up. I just see this big, long flash. It's a strange video, at least the ones I've seen. I've seen 2 or 3. I don't know what to make of it yet, and I really don't. I'm not sure. So Theo asks, let's go for it here. And I hope you're having a Merry Christmas, by the way, Josh. My love for you and the family. Hopefully we'll have a chance to get together soon. Actually, you should give me a call, because I know you've been wanting to do that, and I do too. What do I think of the hospital's hitting capacity? Everything happening today echoes what you were warning about back for a little bit, right? So have any of you been following the whole mess with all those trucks that couldn't get out of England and back into France until, I guess, they basically kind of held England hostage until they made some sort of a Brexit deal, and then there's this new strain supposedly going around? I mean, I don't know what I believe when it comes to it, I guess, is the best answer I can give you, because I feel like I got tricked by what was out there the first time. So I'm going to be very hesitant in making predictions going forward. But I did predict that, this has been a useful thing for people who want to see certain outcomes happen at the international level. And therefore, I thought it likely we would see it happen much more. I do predict more lockdowns being imposed upon the people. I do predict a lot more resistance against them. And in rural areas, I think what we're going to see in probably within the next month is a situation where the police come to shut something down and armed people resist them. And then we'll see what happens. That will be the next big test. And that could happen for a couple different things. Actually, I was reading the people in Virginia were getting another run up under their for Second Amendment sanctuary in a lot of those counties up there, because they hate Northam almost more, maybe even more than the people in Virginia, or excuse me, in Michigan hate. What should I say? And more than the people in Michigan hate Whitmer. And one of the things that's going to be interesting in watching this is going to be that, I think a lot of people are going to have a lot of questions, especially in the right wing, that any elections were legitimate or not legitimate. And for these states which are narrowly divided, like your Michigans, like your Wisconsins, I think a lot of people are going to make presumptions about how should I say, the lack of validity of the people who are in office. And the truth is, we don't really know. I mean, that's the problem with the democratic system. The line of legitimacy has always been marked by corruption, and it's just the way it is. We're at the end of democracy. We're at the end of republic. We're going to have a little bit of mob, and then we're going to have some strong men. And the question is, how do you set that up? And I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just one of those historic things that tend to happen, because out of chaos comes order, and we are a lot of different pieces, I see administrators seeing how bad it is because there's money coming to them, but I don't see that stable so they can drink. Reserve that usually sets it up. We haven't talked about them enough. I should do more research on them. I was doing a ton of research in the first hand, but at this point, you know what? I mean, money's going to be fake at some point. Anyways, did you see the thing with the SEC? And SEC is actually trying to destabilize some of the cryptocurrency market, and that'll be fascinating because a lot of people put a lot of their money hiding in there. And I've always thought that could end up being something that disappears really quick because they want their own, and they're going to say, well, we need something safe. And especially if they have some quantum computing stuff, who knows what kind of awful things they can do? Because people always believe, like, this is it, right? So let's use warfare analogies because I think this is the best way to do it. People always believe they've built the perfect fortress, right? The Maginot Line, right? The gates of Vienna, all these things, the walls of Constantinople. And then someone builds some offensive system that gets around it. And people say, oh, quantum block, crypto, blockchain. None of these things can be hacked. None of them can be, let me tell you, anything can be destroyed. Offense always beats defense in the end. And what we've been watching for a long time is people playing defense. And one of the things that's been driving up that crypto market has been speculation from the very beginning. But the Fed is in heavy. All the bank actors are in, and tech stocks are in, because the question of what capital means has become complicated, right? Capital isn't just about money. It's about social credit. And why is it about social credit? Because information is the most important currency. For instance, if I knew a certain city was going to be nuked 2 hours from now, that'd be the most valuable information in the world to the however many millions of people who live there and people who would have the ability to benefit from it. Just proof of what I'm talking about. So as we've seen tech companies get into cryptocurrency, and we've seen banks try to consolidate in the other direction, what you're seeing is a fight over what capital means. And as that happens, what you're going to see is the destruction of methods that exist outside of what mainstream actors have. And I wouldn't bet against the bankers, man. They've been around a long time. They know their craft pretty well. But I think that's one of the things you should probably keep an eye on in the next year. A lot of our so-called solutions, especially if they're high-tech, don't believe them. Low-tech is the way to be. High-tech, it always is. And while you might need the ability to do some force projection for obvious reasons, that's probably going to be a bad path going forward, to go ahead and rely on some way to skirt the edges of the system. You can play in that world for a little bit, and I'm just saying don't put all your eggs in that basket, okay? What else we got here? Merry Christmas, Vicky. I hope all is well with you and your family. God bless. Let's see. Brick wall was blown outward. Debris from inside on streets. Multiple black flashovers on buildings look like gas line in original early morning footage and from helicopter. My location reservation had acceleration of positive tests. I disregard. Hospitalized number needed treat is way up. Types A or B, SARS-2, severe and rapid onset. I wish I could bring data in for a report. There's been a lot of weird things happening in the background with smallpox. We've been watching some of these reports, and we're recently talking about, what was it? There is BARD, Biomedical Advanced Research something. It's basically DARPA for medicine, was investing $83 million into a smallpox vaccine, which I thought was really curious because smallpox has theoretically been eradicated. So what is it they're afraid of? Is this a situation where they're just going ahead and gravy training off the fact that there's paranoia? Or is this the hint of some predictive programming? Is this money moving in advance for COVID-21? Which, if there's a worse strand of this, was it manufactured? And my position. My position is the first one was, and therefore every subsequent one is. And for those who studied virology, which unfortunately now includes me, what you would expect in a natural situation is that diseases tend to evolve in a direction where they become more infective and less effective, right? It's in more people and it causes less damage because why? A disease is a parasite and wants to survive off you. It's the same reason you get to have, forbearance on loans because parasites don't want to kill the host. And that's something we have seen much more frequently. So I will say one thing. I do think there's a very real possibility as well to everything else. We talked about when we were doing the coronavirus shows, I spent a lot of time talking about, what was it? Antibody dependent enhancement, right? And I think there's a very, very real possibility that as people get this vaccine and they say that doesn't mean you won't get it, doesn't mean you don't have to social distance, doesn't mean you don't have to mask, those people, if there's a new strain that comes out and that serves as carrier within them in some way, shape, or form, there's going to be a lot of people who chose to go ahead and be safe who are going to end up really sick. One other thing I saw was that I think there was a suit out there already about people having an allergic reaction to Pfizer's vaccines because of nanoparticles that were inside of it. That's just one more thing we talked about that, you're not allowed to say. But I mean, look, people have decided that if they're going to go for this, if they're going to resist the vaccine, I've already taken the position that I am not taking this under any voluntary or involuntary circumstances. And the more difficult they want to become, the more difficult I'm going to become. I have no problem being cranky and crotchety. I am that guy. That's why I'm growing the beard, so I can be difficult. That's what you get as a gift for that. So that's kind of my thought on that. And there is more information out there. I do have a really good network of people who are looking at these things. And there are some people who I trust deeply who will tell me, Tom, okay, this is the time you need to take it seriously. And people say, oh, well, you bring Coronavirus Central back. I'm like, what am I going to say? First off, I'm not on the platforms I need to be on. And second off, I'll be like, okay, here's the problem. And this is what I said to them. I went into my chat today, and I said this exact thing. I'm like, the biggest problem, and they were asking this hypothetical question, what could the governments and all these organizations have done differently? They could have not lied to us. They could have been open, and they could have been transparent. When this started, I was open and transparent. I was like, okay, this might be a pandemic that's going to kill millions of people. My genuine belief, I have a responsibility as a smart and thoughtful person to get in front of this and just to help people. And I didn't say I'm helping this group of people or that people. I help people who, quite frankly, hated my guts and who want me to die. But it didn't matter. That was the good thing to do. It was the right thing to do. And more importantly than any of those, it was the Christian thing to do. So I did it. And I went out there and maybe I scared some people, but I didn't do anything. I didn't believe myself. And I didn't do anything the evidence did suggest. And that's what's bothered me this whole time. The evidence wasn't right. But I think that if we were going to try to work this out, I think enough time has passed that now people need to go out there and they need to say, hey, let's go ahead and look at what the origins of this was. Let's look at the relationship between the Chinese and some of the virology. At the beginning of this, there were two stories that people paid a lot of attention to, and I think it's worth going back to some of them. One of them was the guy, Charles Lieber in Harvard, who was selling technology to the Chinese. He was getting like some ridiculous amount as a stipend, 10 grand a month. The other one was there was this thing in Canada where some supplies were stolen or something. I think it was like in Winnipeg or Edmonton. I forget where it was, but a lot of people were watching that really closely in January and February, and then it got memory hole, like absolute crazy. But I felt like that was important, maybe because I just watched that True News episode Rick Wiles did, where they were talking about the relationship between Nancy, Einstein's supposed driver, who was instead the head of her office, and this Fang Fang, who was sleeping with everyone, who's sleeping with Swalwell and other mayors. I mean, this is the thing about these people, and this is one of the things I've noticed about the Chinese deep state operatives and all their things. Man, they will do anything, man. Whatever. If you go out there, there's no limits to what they'll do. They worship their state, and it's kind of sick and it's kind of disgusting, and it kind of fits their history. And look, you're not going to say, "Oh, Chinese are great." No, the China's a terrible civilization. The only thing that they do good are egg rolls. You don't want to deal with anything else. And I say this as someone who studied their civilization. Not that there aren't interesting people, and not that it's not, but they're not our friends. They're not our allies. And are they maybe being used in a larger game? Well, maybe. I don't know. I've read a lot about Israel working with China these days, and that's always worrying because then you see us being thrown under the bus because, hey, we've already bled enough. If we won't go to war with Iran, and don't think that's not on the back burner here. They desperately want us to go to war with Iran. The government in Israel collapsed for like the fourth time in 2 years. Netanyahu basically has to stay in office or he'll go to prison. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's sick how these people always exist. He's not the only one in that boat. You hear about this over and over again where people end up in this difficult position. So Cameron says, Merry Christmas from GU. Well, it's good to see. Is that Guam? Yeah, I hope I'm reading that right because I don't know the abbreviations of that. But it's actually pretty interesting. So Merry Christmas for that. And it's very good to hear from you. So appreciate all that. But yeah, lies and half-truths from all around. And look, I can't tell you what the answers are, but I can tell you what the problems are going to be. And I can tell you my basic contention. And I'm going to say this over and over again, is that sane people need a state that gets off of this game. We need to be Switzerland when the rest of the world goes to war. And whether it's going to be a civil war, whether it's going to be some sort of a world war, I mean, my basic thought is I don't want any piece of any of it. I'm not afraid of a fight, by the way. Fighting doesn't scare me in the least. My soul is saved, I believe. And, I've done my best to worship the Lord. And so death isn't something I particularly fear. But it's just more one of those things that, we need to have something that's apart from this because where all this is going is so predictably bad. And all of you can see it, You can see that, eventually transhumanism is going to be forced on you. You can see that the biotechnological agenda will be pushed in. And all these big catchphrases and these big words. Or, maybe just old-fashioned Stalinism. They got those guillotines at the FEMA camps. I always hear about those things. Dana did a lot of research on that. And she could tell you much better than I could what's out there. But those are the things, that I worry about. But, today we're not going to worry about that because, the thing about this, and take it from someone who's been in this game for a while, if you can't escape for a little bit, you will lose your sanity. And I skirt as close to the line as anyone dare, and I'm a pretty strong-willed person. But if you don't, sometimes just look away from it and it's not enough to be fighting against something. You need to be fighting for something. That's why I write the New Albion books. I could write dour books like The Coming Civil War all day long, and frankly, they sell better. But I want to believe when someone comes to me and say, Tom, is there any hope? I want to say, yeah, there's hope. We're going to do something awesome. We're going to make a nation based in Maine. We're going to start there, get the Mainers there. We're going to start with the Ents, because why would you start with the Ents? Everyone loves the Ents. You start with Treebeard, and maybe you get some crusty New Hampshireites involved or something, or maybe you get some New Brunswicker loyalists involved, and all of a sudden you got something cooking. Once you get one person doing something crazy, two people is a trend. And then the Vermonters will come along. They'll bring some good ganja along and some reggae. It's fine. We can make it work. We'll be fun with it. We'll bring the upstate New Yorkers. Everyone hates New York City, even the people who live there. So that's fine. Let them have that. And they all left anyway, as much as they could. And we'll just keep working at it. We'll bring up the Quebecois, and then I can have my poutine. And we'll see. Maybe I'll even be nice to people in Ontario, but whatever the area around Toronto is just awful. I think we might have to give them way to, maybe we're in Pakistan or something. I hear that's where most of the people are from. So I don't know, but we need something different. We need something that's more focused on quality than quantity, and that's it. Raven writes, I just shut it off, shut down on the regular, only way to think clearly, to shake off all the rest. Yeah, you got to take some time away. You got to take some time apart. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do for the rest of the year. I could have rushed to get into my next book, so I'd have it done by January 6th. I mean, you guys know it's legendary. I've written 80 pages in one day, and it's some of my best writing. And I could do that, although my wife is never happy when I do that. But that's okay, because I do become very derelict when I do that. But I'm not going to do that, because I think, honestly, I'm going to try to do something harder. I'm going to write some stuff that's brave and short, and that people can relate to explain the challenge in front of us, because that's what I can do. I can condense things for an audience, and I have a little bit of courage, and I don't know. I don't know what I'm not supposed to do, and I'm not content to just sit back and wait and let things happen. I don't believe in a passive approach to life. I don't find that leads to good outcomes. I mean, maybe you feel the same way, maybe you don't. Let's see here. Richard writes, hey, Tom, have you heard of Ricardo Duquesne? Am I saying that right? I hope. He is the author of Canada in Decay. I have that book. He lives up in New Brunswick. That's awesome. Good contact after your project. Maybe I will reach out to Ricardo. So that sounds awesome. I will. I wonder if he's what his background is, a name like that. Maybe he's a Canadian, maybe. I don't know, but that would be good. Yeah, no, I've read Canada in Decay, though. It's a demographic review of how Canada's destroying itself. And it is kind of true. And I know you're not allowed to say that, because we are so progressive and tolerant that we're going to go ahead and have everyone work together. I'm like, watch how that works. Just trust me. You're at the beginning part of it, what's all nice and fun. It doesn't end up that way. Because the thing is, you can have a multi-ethnic society. I'm not saying you can't, but you better have a damn strong culture and faith. If you just say, yeah, we'll have everyone do anything they want, wherever they want, there's a name for that. It's anarchy, and it usually doesn't go well. Don't believe that? Go check out the Horn of Africa. That's where they try things like that. Not necessarily a good thing. Doesn't really work that well, but what do I know? I'm just the guy behind the mic. Well, what should we talk? We got anything else you guys want to cover today? You believe he's Puerto Rican. Well, hey, you know what? Maybe he knows then. I can work with him. A name like that, though, that doesn't sound Puerto Rican to me. Nah. No sabe nada, What can I say? My Spanish is so rusty, especially up there. You don't have too many Puerto Ricans in Canada. You don't have too many Latinos in Canada, actually. It just didn't work out that way for whatever reason. I'm just looking if there's anything else. Should I pimp the books? You guys know, go buy my books. Make my life easy. Actually, you should buy them. They're pretty useful. Go buy Loyal Revolutionary. That's the one that's appropriate for the time. And, yeah, I don't know. Where do we go from here? Tell me some things you guys want to see in the year ahead. I'm going to say a little prayer for us. And I want to get some suggestions and some feedback from you. And then we'll do a couple quick recollections. And we'll call it a night. We'll do it. I'm not going to go super long unless you guys really get me started on something, which maybe you will. You never know. But it is Christmas, so I might do a little bit more of an extended prayer. Heavenly Father, I just want to say thank you for giving us your Son, Jesus Christ, those of us who worship him as our Savior, because he died for our sins, and that today is a day of blessing and joy as we remember his birth and celebrate what he was willing to do for us, and understand that, it's something we could never earn for ourselves, and that we as fallen, sinners needed that and are just grateful. And we're thankful and remember that even amidst the poverty and suffering, those of us who are sitting here, we have the material wealth around us, we do, the safety and security, but also we remember that we have hope and we have the opportunity to be aware of your presence, and that is what's most important. And I want to say that because as we lose things, I want everyone to remember, in this prayer, that we have something to celebrate at all times, a gift beyond compare, and something for which we should be grateful and joyous. So I want to share that thought of joy with each of you tonight. As things get crazy, it's something we can always be grateful for, and that if things should reach their end, then it's just the beginning for those of us who believe. And let's pray that in Jesus' name. Amen. So hopefully that will be a prayer that touches you, and just try to give some hope, because I know hope is the rarest and hardest of commodities with everything we're dealing with out there. And those are the things I'm kind of, thinking about. But yeah, the thing about Latinos is I should say this on air because I'll get in trouble, but they're on their way to becoming honorary whites in the same way the sort of Italians and other groups did. And I know some people care about that deeply. I know it's big in Latin culture, not as much in other places, but we'll see. I don't know. It's something that's interesting, but I gotta say, I speak it, but man, I just don't love the Spanish language. I never have. I like French, but I don't love German either, so don't feel bad. It's just one of those things. We all have our languages we like. The worst of SARS-2 is to come as it mutates and becomes more virulent, maybe not more deadly, but we'll be more sick. I do think we'll get it worse, but I don't think it's I don't think it's a natural mutation. I think things are released, and that's my opinion. And we'll see if I can prove it in the fullness of time. But I do think we should be prepared for that. So what would I say to you here as we come towards an end for tonight's broadcast? I would say be mindful and be aware strange things are afoot, and I think things will only get stranger as we lead up to January 6th. I think sometime between January 6th and January 9th, we're going to learn a lot about this country. Perhaps before then, though, this calendar is not hard to predict. I mean, it was a heck of a thing. I was listening to Mike Adams, and he was saying a rumor that there was a nuke in D.C. that if Trump didn't leave, they were going to set off. And who knows? Maybe we're dealing with Samson option type situations. I mean, the thing about the people who lead us is they'd rather nobody have it than someone who isn't. And if there was ever full disclosure of all the wicked things things they did, they would destroy society rather than face the consequences. And that's the problem with living in, I don't know what the Greek term for it would be, a blackmailocracy, but that's what we have, And you kind of wonder with people like Epstein and Maxwell, who they were working for. Were they working for Mossad in the same way that the cartels were working through the triads to the CCP? And, who are we blackmailing? Maybe we're not that good at it. Maybe that's all we have is a question of who will stand on rice on top of one another. And, that's the thing that's good about being a Christian. If someone accuses me of a sin, whether I did it or didn't do it, forgiveness is for us, and forgiveness is for the sinner, and repentance is the key to it. So whatever horrible things you've done, no, you're not alone. I've done a lot of terrible things too, and I'm probably going to do more terrible things going forward, some of which I won't even mean to do. And so with all of that in mind, just remember a little bit of forgiveness and a little bit of forbearance goes a long way. But we should remove people who are beyond the pale of redemption, and where they just simply say, not that the Lord can't redeem them, because of course he can redeem any sinner, but where we have realized that these people have lied to us one too many times. And I think that's where we're at. And I will say the solution isn't the Democrats and the solution isn't the Republicans. The solution sure as hell isn't Joe Biden, but it also isn't Donald Trump. The solution isn't in Washington, D.C., and the solution isn't in Ottawa, up in Ontario. The solution is in your community. It's in your family. It's in your heart. It's in your faith. It's in a new beginning where you root things in what is good rather than what is great, and what is helpful rather than what is harmful. And will it require cost to get there? Of course it will. Will it require us to go places we're not comfortable with? Already planning for it. And when that opportunity comes, it's a question of what you believe and what you are willing to live for. Because the thing is, it's a cliche, but it's true. Everybody dies, but not everybody lives. And that's one of the things I think that's really important, that you're going to have the opportunity to test what you're really about and what you really believe and what you're willing to stand for. You can't control outcomes. Don't even try it. And don't try to be smart about it. Don't try to game all those things. And it's just, these are the challenges of our times. And in some ways it's a blessing, because, life is really kind of like a test anyway. And if you can kind of overcome the challenges, and I'll tell you, you guys know me enough to know I've faced down some pretty difficult challenges. Although it would be interesting, I get more triggered by like trying to tie certain things together than I do by fighting the national media. Dana can attest, it's absolutely the truth. If you've ever seen me try to winch something down, you would like wince in pain at seeing how poorly I do that. Just like one of these things I just can't do for whatever reason. Like something in my brain is fried when it comes to that. But like the fights in front of you, when you're talking with people, you're talking about your beliefs, if you know what you're about, just don't let anyone take that from you. And you don't have to agree with everyone. Defend what you believe, and you should always be willing to reconsider what you believe in light of new information sometimes. And I'm not beyond persuasion, but those are things that are good and healthy and that are necessary if we're all going to somehow get along. But we'll see. Let's see. The dog would not go out anymore, huh? I put up a sign in the lobby here in Mass to say it's okay to say Merry Christmas, and it got ripped down by progressives. Well, you know what you do if they do that? You just say Merry Christmas that much louder, if that's what you want to do. It doesn't change anything, but the thing about the virtue signaling, and it's toxic in Massachusetts. It's beyond redemption. In terms of how bad it's got, is that only those people will suffer the consequences of their own naivety, social justice thing. It's actually interesting. The guy who was Feinstein's driver, his name was Russell Lowe. He ended up serving as the head of the Social Justice Education Center, where they basically were teaching how Japanese were because of comfort women. And I'm sure it was an effort by the Chinese to set the Japanese against the Koreans, because the Chinese do that. Chinese are just dirty with everything they do. And I have no problem saying that. I'm sure they're nice and good Chinese people, but I don't trust them, and that's fine. It's just historically, and they're sort of known for that, actually, in Asia. What they call them is well, I'm not going to say what they call them, but they call them sort of something that would be considered offensive in the West. Let's put it that way. You do your own research if you want to know. You don't need to know every little dirty detail out there. And enough of you probably do know already in the comments section. So we'll go from there. So anyways, I went 50 minutes. That's pretty good. And I'm pretty tired tonight. So I'm going to call it a night for tonight. God bless each and every one of you. I appreciate each of you. Please be safe. I will be back. I will probably be back on Monday. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but we'll talk about something. I'm sure there'll be a lot to happen over the weekend. And supposedly, from what I read, Pelosi said she's going to put up the $2,000 thing. We should spend a little time talking about the economic needs, which are becoming dire and desperate for a lot of Americans. And if you can help someone out, do something, give them a little help, give them a little food, give them, even if you just give them encouragement or say a prayer, do that, because there's a lot of people who have it far worse than we do, and you should be grateful for what you do have, because you could always have a lot less. It can always get worse. I fear we're going to live that. But in the meantime, let us enjoy what we may. So while there's time yet here, me and my little sad, $3 Christmas tree is here. So we'll have a very good Merry Christmas, and we will enjoy a little bit more time with my wife. She sends her love to each and every one of you as well, and we'll see what's happening. So let me just look real fast before I go, see if there's any breaking news on what happened with the thing here. Who's behind it? Second, you can see me, but I can't see you, and that's okay, because I'm peeking if there's anything new. The wiretap thing, the NSA thing. Is there anything on that? Okay, so it doesn't look like I have anything that interesting here. Wait. Cleared without incident. So the problem in Cincinnati went away. And by the way, if you ever want to join me or everyone else who's there, t.me/Atlantic Homeland. I tend to hang out there a lot, and it's an opportunity to interact with other smart, intelligent people. You don't have to live in the Atlantic Homeland to be there, although don't be surprised if I don't try to recruit you. I do that. It's a thing, and what are you going to do? I mean, I made the choice myself. I mean it. For now, I think we're good. I don't have anything else that I see in there, so we'll see if anything else. What's the best retort? Or for those who don't speak French, or you could say for most of you, say no hablo inglés. ¿Qué? No, I don't know. You know what? I'll tell you the truth. I don't usually cause a stink. I usually, when I go in places, they want a mask. I have one of those little things, and I put it on because I don't really want to cause a fight. I'm not going to cause a fight where I'm not. I learned a long time ago. I don't crap where I eat. I don't try to cause a big stink, but when I decide to go ahead and make a stink, y'all will know about it, because I don't tend to be quiet about it. I don't believe in petty little actions of standing against that. It's not really what works for me. When I tend to make a stink, you know what? You can smell the smell wafts 3 or 4 states away. It has that Rumford aroma for those people who live in Maine. And if you've ever been near a paper mill, by the way, there are very few smells worse of that this side of decay and cemeteries. But anyway. God bless. You guys have a good night. Thank you. You tried to type on Venmo and it came out on Vermont. Take a look at that. That's funny. I'll fix it. It's fine. I'm sorry. My spell checker. That's hilarious. So, no, I did the capital O. That's okay. So, yeah, if you guys want to send some help, it's always appreciated. A little bit of bread to keep, put tips in my jar and say, man, what are you doing here? La-di-da-da-di-da. All right. So everyone else, have a merry rest of your Christmas. How many hours are left in it? I will be back on Monday. We'll have any news that's out there, but I hope you're all having a good night, and God bless. All right. There we go.